Good evening, hockey fans. Welcome to Frozen Pond Arena here in Valencia, Pennsylvania. My name is Brian Mitchell. This is BurghHockeyLive's pregame show. We have Hampton and we have Hempfield here at 9:10 this evening. However, a little bit earlier, what we're going to do for you is we're doing a special pregame show to bring you up to speed with everything that is going on in the PIHL tonight. Our contributors are out there right now feeding me information back and forth. We're going to talk a little bit about the playoff picture and what the implications for tonight's games are. And a little bit here, a little bit there. I was supposed to have a couple call-ins. Unfortunately, I don't have the correct setup for that this evening, so we're going to stay away from that. But we are going to bring us a little bit more when it comes to the updates for at least the next hour or so before we get to Hempfield and Hampton. Hey, this game may mean everything for Hempfield. This game may mean nothing for Hempfield. We'll find out here momentarily, but we'll start right now. And I'm going to go with what we released earlier about on our pregame show, on our previews for the week, and I'm going to get into the schedules for tonight and see if we have any updates so far. I've gotten a couple right now. Currently, it's 1-0 Baldwin at Ice Castle Arena. Baldwin is leading early in their contest. Jared Toddhunter is at Center Ice Arena with Montour and Penn Trafford. Currently 1-0 Montour. Michael Felsing with a goal early to give Montour the lead. So big game because Montour needs the victory here in any way possible to be able to tie West Allegheny for that qualifier game this evening. So we're going to move along and talk about that in a little bit. We're going to go through the scoreboard right now. AAA, Mount Lebanon leading Bethel Park 2-1. Unfortunately, right now for Mount Lebanon, it's almost too little too late as Lebo needed Bethel Park to lose last week to be able to make it within those 2 points. So we're going to move and talk about that in a little bit. We'll live look in on that one. Mount Lebanon 2, Bethel Park 1. Let's see how we got to that point early in the game. Fino Monaco has a pair of goals for the Blue Devils right now, both even strength goals, both assists by Nolan Lyman. So good job for Mount Lebanon to jump out on Bethel Park early. Bethel Park, of course, will be facing North Allegheny in the first round of the postseason. Jacob Lang, the goal for Bethel Park. In goal is going to be, looks like Zachary Ott for Bethel Park has already stopped 5 of 7 that he's faced. And Tommy Schubert in goal for Mount Lebanon, 9 of 10 to start the game for the Blue Devils. We'll move into Double-A. The only other game in AAA tonight, North Allegheny and Pine Richland. It's at 9 p.m. at the Barrel Ice Complex. We'll check back in on that game in a little bit here. Let's see what we've got here. On Double-A, I just gave you a couple updates, but we'll talk about it. South Fayette trailing Baldwin 1-0. That's Ed Major is covering that game down at Ice Castle Arena. Mars and Moon, another big game out there at the Barrel Ice Complex. Mars needs the victories. They control their destiny in that Double-A Northwest. We'll talk about those scenarios here momentarily once we get into it. A Montour, a goal from Michael Felsing, leads Penn Trafford in the first period. Early start for them, so it's going to be big to see who ends up where out of those. Of course, Montour needs that win. At 8:35, Franklin Regional, Greater Latrobe is going to face off at Kirk Nevin Arena. Franklin Regional and Hempfield, 2 teams, depending on how they play tonight, could end up in a qualifier game, or one of them could end up in the postseason. So we'll find out momentarily. Looks like Hampton's JV team is going to come on for a practice. So actually, I'm looking over that. I'm a little bit of an ADD, so I'm going to be looking at certain things and have a little bit of fun with it. Zamboni's out on the ice cleaning. We just actually had the Butler Valley Yetis out on the ice out here. So, of course, the rebranded Butler Valley Dogs from last season. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out for them. It's a nice little chance to restart their program. I spoke to a parent. The Pee-wees were out moments ago. A fun time. Good little group there out on the ice. North Hills and Chartiers Valley in Single A at the Island. No score right now. And they started at 7:15 out there. In Class B, looks like we've got a couple games. Avonworth leading Wilmington. Big for Burrell is Avonworth and Wilmington. Wilmington, if with a loss, Burrell will clinch without even having to touch the ice for that number 3 seed, and they'll face Carrick in the first round instead of the trip to Ross Draver Ice Garden. They'll go to Ice Castle. They won't have to face Ringgold in the first round. We'll talk about that in a second. The other games in that division, Elizabeth Forward, Bishop Canevin, 9 o'clock start. McDowell and Burrell, they start at 9 p.m. from Pittsburgh Ice. Ringgold and Carrick play at Ice Castle. That's also going to be another game that Ed Major's covering this evening, so we'll get you there momentarily. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but first we're going to load up and see what's going on this week, and we're trying to break it down for you so you understand exactly what's going on in the world of the high school scene, especially with this playoff picture in some of these divisions. So let's see, we got the playoff push, postseason push. I release every week on Sunday after the new year to give you an idea of how to get to the postseason, how teams are going to have to battle that week, and who can clinch and who might not be able to clinch. Okay, so we'll start in Class B today. And it just looks like this. The standings show itself out as there's only really one seed that isn't clinched at this point, and that's the 4 seed in the South. The first seed, of course, and we're going to talk in the North, Neshannock, Avonworth, Burrell, and Wilmington. Looks like with Wilmington trailing Avonworth, if that continues on that pace, Burrell will clinch the number 3 seed in the North and face Carrick in the first round. We don't know yet until we find out what happens at final score of Wilmington and Avonworth. Burrell controls their own destiny. Whether or not they get to the ice or not is going to be up for grabs. They just have to win tonight over McDowell, and they will have that 3 seed based on a head-to-head. So we look into second. Ringgold, they're working on a perfect season right now. One more game tonight at Carrick, I believe, is the team that they're facing. And yes, Ringgold, Carrick, they had their way with Carrick earlier this year. Their only loss for Carrick in regulation was, I believe, Ringgold this year. Carrick has 2 games left, but Ringgold only the 1 tonight. They can go for a perfect season on a regular year. Looks like it's going to start lining up that it's going to be Ringgold facing Wilmington, Burrell at Carrick, Elizabeth Forward at Avonworth, and then you're going to look at that 4 seed in the South, and we're actually not going to have an answer for that pretty much tonight, I believe. We probably won't. It's Elizabeth Forward, Bishop Canevin. Actually, we could have an answer this evening based off of one detail. So Elizabeth Forward, Canevin. Morgantown has to play on Thursday. So the Mohawks need to win, and they're in. We won't know that answer till Thursday. They host Wilmington. Wilmington's game could mean nothing at that point. So you look at it. Tonight, you have Canevin, Elizabeth Forward. If Elizabeth Forward defeats Canevin in regulation, Bishop Canevin will be eliminated from the postseason picture. They need a victory over Elizabeth Forward at Ice Castle Arena. Ed Major will be there for that contest. If they get an overtime point, Connellsville, they have to wait for Morgantown to decide how it plays out. If they're tied 3 ways at 15 points and Morgantown loses to Wilmington, then it looks like this. Morgantown and Connellsville will play in the tiebreaker in the qualifier game due to the fact that Connellsville won their season series against Morgantown. However, everybody else split their season series. So Connellsville gets the tiebreaker in common games. Connellsville then goes into a second tiebreaker, which Morgantown and Bishop Canevin decide who's going to play Connellsville in that final game, and because of penalties, it's going to be Morgantown because of 121 fewer penalty minutes than Bishop Canevin this year. So Canevin needs a win to break that tie with Connellsville and eliminate Connellsville. And I have an update right now. Penn Trafford has tied the game with just over 5 minutes remaining in the first with Montour. So we're waiting to see the goal scorer and everything. He's going to send it over to me. And Franklin Regional, he just got me. Jared Todd-Hunter sent me a message that Franklin Regional and Baldwin's JV tied 3-3. David Tamino scored for Penn Trafford to tie that game up at 1. Morgantown loses in overtime on Thursday, and Bishop Canevin wins this week. It's going to be Morgantown and Bishop Canevin playing in the qualifier. If Morgantown loses in regulation and Bishop Canevin loses in regulation, Morgantown and Connellsville will play in the qualifier matchup. It is David Tamino who scored for Penn Trafford this week. So to tie things up against Montour, Montour needs the victory. They can't have any less than that. Morgantown, Bishop Canevin, and Connellsville tie for 3 points. Sorry, Morgantown loses in regulation, and Canevin loses in regulation. It will be Morgantown and Connellsville in the qualifier game on Sunday. Don't know where yet. Haven't got the details on that for you guys. We'll tell you in a second here. So that's what it looks like right now. Tonight, of course, it's Avonworth and Wilmington at Hess. Elizabeth Ford, Bishop Canevin at Ice Castle. McDowell at Burrell at the Pittsburgh Ice, and then Ringgold at Carrick at Ice Castle. On Thursday, it's going to be Carrick and Elizabeth Forward at Rostraver, Wilmington at Morgantown, and Neshannock at Central Valley at Brady's Run. So there's another one you got to pay attention to and see what ends up happening with those. In Class A, we're going to move along and look at how that's looking. The only 2 games tonight are at RMU. All the teams involved. There is no seeding going to be changing in Class A. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on in that division. Class A, of course, North Catholic winning the Northwest, Thomas Jefferson winning the Southwest. The division winner of the Northeast is Kiski, and Southeast is Bishop McCourt. Kiski has the tiebreaker over Indiana, so they cannot tie. Kiski will win any tiebreaker with Indiana. Okay, so North Catholic is going to host South Park in the first round. North Catholic, of course, right now 17-1. They have Thomas Jefferson tomorrow. Probably their biggest test of the season is going to be the Jaguars, who are at 18-1 right now. An overtime loss for North Catholic gets them their 19 games. Senior night at 66 for that group that brought up the that team from the JV level. They built that from the grassroots, trying to build it back after a run in the early 2000s. That was a big story last year into this year, so it's good to see them coming back. Blackhawk will face Thomas Jefferson. We'll go back to North Catholic and South Park. North Catholic absolutely on a tear. And then you have South Park, who has had a rough stretch of games here as of late. It hasn't been an easy run for the South Park Eagles at this point, and they're going to need to work on trying to figure out how to shut down North Catholic. It happened once this year, and I don't think it's going to happen much more. South Park, you just need to step up and be able to defeat them. Thomas Jefferson's going to be hosting Blackhawk. 18-1 right now, could be 18-2 or 19-1 at the end of things. And you look at Blackhawk 6-12 on the year with a shootout loss. It's going to be a war of attrition for the Cougars, and it's going to be a rough one for Blackhawk to be able to take that number 1 seed. So Thomas Jefferson has just had their way with everybody they face except for South Park that one time. So, that was Chartiers Valley that one game. So we'll see how that moves along there. In the east side of the bracket, the Northeast will be Kiski and Norwin facing off at Center Ice Arena. They're both basically a home game. You have 2 divisions that are playing in the same rink, North and South. So Kiski, Norwin, of course, the high-octane offense that they've had all season. And Kiski is just having a dynamite year. Ayers and, you have Ayers, you have, his name's sliding me right now, guys, Michael Rayberg, and all those players that are setting up for Kiski right now. Marvelous season after a tough season. I believe they were 1-15 last year. So Kiski moves on to actually have a solid season for this year, and they're able to win the division over Indiana. And Indiana, it's just been a war of attrition. They had a really solid, strong start, led the division for the most part this year, and then just leveled off the last couple weeks, and it's just been rough for the Indians to try to get their mojo back and going. They're going to have the Bishop McCourt Crushers at 16-2 with an overtime loss, and the players returning for Bishop McCourt from last year are going to have a chip on their shoulder because that not being allowed to play in the postseason is going to set on somebody, and that's going to be tough for the Crushers to be able to do anything other than want to run over any teams. And I'm going to be dead honest with you. There aren't many teams that I can think that are going to be a tougher matchup than Bishop McCourt all around this season. The Crushers are just, from top to bottom, one of the better teams in single A. Thomas Jefferson is a solid offensive team, but Bishop McCourt's just a big team. And, Olton Beckhoff is just an absolute dynamite forward, and you got to pay attention to that. So you look at that and that matchup right there. Bishop McCourt, Indiana, we don't know where that's going to be played. I've heard rumors. Once I actually get a final update on where that's going to be played, we'll get it to you guys. But as far as I know, that I think it's going to be played at the War Memorial. Until I hear otherwise, I'll let you guys know. I heard there's rumors that it wasn't going to be played there. Who knows how that's going to play out. So we'll go in there, and then we'll talk about it. But those scenarios are clinched. Those games are going to happen. Those are your first-round matchups in single A. that made my life a lot easier with the whole Fox Chapel and that top division being close and then not so close. So we took care of it there. We're going to move to Class AA, which we're going to talk about here in a second because of how they're laying out. We're going to go back into the scoreboard and see what I missed. The big game that's on the docket, other than this one, is the Penn Trafford Montour game. Montour took a 2-1 lead. Looking at in progress, I haven't gotten an update from Jared Todhunter, but I'm looking at the scoreboard now, and that game is currently in the second period. No, it is still in the first period. Coming up at the end of the first, it was Dusty Garagash scoring a power play goal from Michael Felsing and Migliozzi to make it 2-1. Now that game, if Montour wins, they will play a qualifier game against West Allegheny on Sunday. Location to be announced. We have no clue where it's going to be at this point. If we find out, we will let you know as soon as possible. So we'll talk about that. Montour out shooting Penn Trafford in that one 11-6 early. Mars and Moon tied at 0 at the... He says it's Chase Schultenbrand. They're saying Dusty Garagash on the thing. We'll wait for an official call there. I don't have it right now. I'm trying to have a good time with you on this one. Just talking some hockey, that's all. Mars in the second period over Moon, 0-0. Mars is out shooting Moon 25-5 in that contest. Luke Konasai absolutely stonewalling Mars right now. Danny Mitchell only making 5 saves on the day so far on his 5 shots. So we're gonna pay real close attention to that contest. They have Ryan Mickey scored to tie it for Penn Trafford 2-2 at Center Ice Arena. We're moving along. Oh, I'll get an update from that game momentarily. I see who's the scorekeeper for that one. So Ryan Mickey tied things up for Penn Trafford. Mars and Moon 0-0. We're waiting to see if they can break this tie. Luke Konasai is going to have to stand on his head the remainder of that game to hold Moon in it. It's been a down year for the Tigers. They're working on getting back around. So we're going to check in on South Fayette and Baldwin, then we'll go back into the scenarios for AA, which are a little bit weirder when it comes, a little easier, but weirder when it comes to that Northwest. Still 1-0 Baldwin. Jimmy Dulia with the goal for the Highlanders. Eddie Nowicki gets the start for Baldwin. 11 saves on 11 shots. Brandon Timmons the start for South Fayette. 4 for 5 on the day. So it looks like South Fayette really trying to put it to Baldwin early in that one and see what happens. We'll move over and look at the AA scenarios right now. Meadville, Quaker Valley, and Mars. We'll get back to them in a second. We're going to talk about the 2 possible playing games. PT and Montour tied at 2. Montour needs the victory to tie West Allegheny to get into the postseason. If Montour can't pull off a victory today, they're done for the year. West Allegheny will make the postseason and will play at the division winner for the Northwest. Still up in the air who that is, and we won't know that for a little while because that won't be figured out until Thursday. Tonight, and then, of course, we'll move into the south side of that, the east side of that bracket. Plum and Armstrong have clinched their seeds. The Mustangs will host the second seed in the southeast. Greater Latrobe hosts Armstrong in the first round. Greater Latrobe, of course, 8:35 against Franklin Regional. That's another big game. That's on the Westmoreland Sports Network if you want to listen in. I'm not saying you don't have to pay attention to my game. I'm saying if you feel like looking at both of them, you have an opportunity to listen to that one, watch this one. It's up to you. I got the video feed here if you want to listen to if you're really into what's going on between Franklin Regional and Hempfield. Hey, more power to you. I'll throw props out to whoever's out there wanting to cover. I respect that. Some people don't like the fact that I'll say that type of stuff. I don't mind it. I love the fact that people are out there wanting to cover hockey because, frankly, it gets overlooked a lot, especially at the high school level. So more props to that. So you look at it, and Hempfield and Franklin Regional, it's a war of attrition. If one team ends up getting more points today than the other, that team's in. That's as best as you can say. If they don't either get the same amount of points or they get 2 different sides of points, then they're going to play a qualifier game. As simple as that. You tie, you play a qualifier game on Sunday. We're looking at maybe 4 qualifier games on Sunday right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Actually, I think, 4 qualifier games on Sunday, 3 of which might come from AA. we'll talk about that in a second, especially if Moon continues to hold Mars to whatever it is that they're doing right now. And I got a Twitter response, an update from center ice, end of the first, 2-2. Tamino and Mickey, Felsing and Schaltenbrand with the goals from that one. Still 0-0 at Barrel Ice Complex. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Double A, let's look at it this way. We're going to go into that Northwest now and talk about what's going to happen. Baldwin 1-0 over South Fayette after 2. Mickey was the other goal. Yes, that was good. Ed Major just gave me an update there. Here's how it works. Those 3 teams, Mars, Quaker Valley, and Meadville. It's very important to note, Meadville cannot win the division, so they can't host a first-round game. So that first-round home game is going to be held at Barrel Ice Complex, whether it's Mars or whether it's Quaker Valley. Here's how it works out. If Mars loses to Moon and defeats Quaker Valley in overtime on Thursday, the Planets, Quakers, and Bulldogs are all tied at 18 points. Mars will be the division champions based off of the common points in games played. Meadville, Quaker Valley will play a qualifier game on Sunday. If Mars defeats Moon in any way, Quaker Valley in overtime, the Quakers and Bulldogs will play the qualifier game and Mars will clinch the division. If Mars defeats Moon but loses to Quaker Valley in regulation, the Quaker Valley Quakers will clinch the #1 seed and the Planets and Bulldogs will play the qualifier game. If Mars loses to Moon and defeats Quaker Valley in regulation, the Planets clinch the #1 seed, and Meadville will be the #2 seed due to Mars having 9 wins in that scenario. So it will be an up-in-the-air scenario up until we see that Quaker Valley and Mars game on Thursday. So when we talk about that, you'll see what exactly happens at the end of the week. We can't call any of that game. I can't tell you who's going to win that division. It depends on tonight's game. It's a very important game for Mars, and it seems like Moon showed up to play. So we'll see how that turns out. In the Southwest, of course, I said Montour needs to win to get in. And let's see what we got. We got it's just Ed posting up his pictures from the first round from Ice Castle. Plum, #1 in the Northeast. The Mustangs host either Hempfield or Franklin Regional in the first round of the postseason. And we'll find out in a second. Armstrong clinched the #2 seed in the Northeast. The Riverhawks face Greater Latrobe in the first round of the postseason. So that's those two have already decided where they're going. Plum's going to be at home. Armstrong's going to be at Kirk Nevin Arena against the Greater Latrobe Wildcats. Greater Latrobe, of course, against Armstrong. So Hempfield or Franklin Regional, I said, winner of tonight's points gets in. If Franklin Regional falls to the Greater Latrobe, remember, we're talking about Greater Latrobe. If they defeat Greater Latrobe, you got to watch out for Franklin Regional because they just had their way with West Allegheny last week. If they can take down Greater Latrobe tonight, Franklin Regional could walk into Montour scores, making it 3-2 from Jeremy Freeman to give the Spartans the lead in that one. So Montour up 3-2 in that contest, so pay attention on those levels. Hempfield and Franklin Regional tied with 20 points. The team with the most points gets it tonight. Pay attention to Franklin Regional. If they get the victory over the Greater Latrobe Wildcats, then they've hit another gear. They're trying to play, because I believe, if they remember correctly, it was 5 or 6 consecutive seasons of playoff berths. So that's something that they are proud about. That is something they can be very proud of. So keep an eye on that one, guys. That's a fun one. Let's see what we got here. I almost closed out by accident, just seeing if I have any comments in the section yet. So we move in current matchups, and we've already talked about schedule. South Fayette and Baldwin play right now. Of course, that is Baldwin 1-0. Mars and Moon 0-0 at Barrel. Montour Penn Trafford at Center Ice Arena. That is 3-2 Penn Trafford. I'm sorry, Montour. Start that one. Mars leading Moon 1-0 at Barrel Ice Complex. Matthew Bobko with the goal from Sean Newman and Hudson Finn to give them the lead. So that was your update from Mars. From the Barrel Ice Complex just right down the road here, down 9-10. Moving in, and we're going to go into AAA now and talk about it a little bit. And this is where it gets interesting. We only have one game in AAA. today. Right now it's number 8, Bethel Park, and Mount Lebanon playing. And right now it is playing for Pride, or the Blue Devils, and the Blue Devils lead 2-1 over Mount Lebanon. And that is at, just going into the third one, Penn Trafford ties it. Nate Lochner scores for the Warriors. So now it's 3-3. And this is why we try to stay live for this one, so that you have an idea of what's going on out there. I wanted to be able to talk about this a little bit and get these scenarios out and actually have an answer for you guys as we continue to move along. So we move along here, and we talk about that one, and we'll go into Triple A, and it's a little bit of the same up in there. We got a little craziness going on at the top. At the top of it, of course, North Allegheny is the number 1 seed. Upper St. Clair is the number 2 seed. They can't move from there. North Allegheny plays Bethel Park in the first round, regardless of however anything falls out. So they have the tiebreaker over Upper St. Clair, so they can only tie them, and Upper St. Clair will fall to second, regardless of how that plays out. Upper St. Clair is the number 2 seed. They'll face the number 7 seed in the first round. Like I said, once again, 3-3 Montour. Oh, we got another update from Jared Todd Hunter. 3-3, Nate Lochner scored to give Penn Trafford a 3-3 tie right now at Center Ice Arena. As much of an update as possible for you guys. Triple A, we're going to talk about it a little bit, and I wrote it out a little bit differently this year so that everybody understood the tiebreakers, because you only had to play a play-in game if you're the number 8 seed and 9 seed. So if you're tied for that final spot, you play a play-in game, regardless of head-to-head, regardless of how that ever plays out. But because you have more seeds between 1 and 8, you have to figure out how they all fall. Here's how it happened. Upper St. Clair took the 2 seed. Currently, Peters Township sits on points. They play Cathedral Prep this week. Peters Township has the tiebreaker over Cannon-McMillan and Pine Richland, the only 2 teams that can catch them for the 4 seed at minimum. So Peters Township has clinched a home game in the first round. It will be played at Princegate. Cathedral Prep, if they defeat Peters Township on Tuesday, which we will be there tomorrow, Matt Geika and I will be on that call. It will be Cathedral Prep, Peters Township. If Peters Township defeats Cathedral Prep in any format, then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that could happen based on what happens with Cannon-McMillan and Pine Richland. So we'll say it this way. Right now, Cannon-McMillan holds the tiebreaker over Cathedral Prep. But Pine Richland holds the tiebreaker. Sorry, they're tied with Cathedral Prep. So Pine Richland has a point difference. We'll talk about this in a second. Number 4 seed looks like this. 3 seed is the winner of tomorrow's game between Peters Township and Cathedral Prep on BurghHockeyLive from Princegate. We will be there for that one. Don't worry, we finish up our Peters Township coverage for the year. If Peters Township defeats Cathedral Prep, it goes like this. Cannon-McMillan holds a head-to-head tiebreaker over Cathedral Prep. Pine Richland holds a head-to-head tiebreaker over Cannon-McMillan and would hold a slight penalty minutes advantage over Cathedral Prep. A tie in the penalty minutes would constitute the tiebreaker. So I think that's a coin flip at that point for that 4 seed. So here's how it works out. Cannon-McMillan will be the 4 seed with a win over Upper St. Clair tomorrow, which we will also have on BurghHockeyLive. And Pine Richland loses one of their 2 remaining games. The Big Macs hold the tiebreaker over Cathedral Prep. Pine Richland clinches the number 4 seed in a scenario that goes like this. They need to win over North Allegheny tonight and Bethel Park on Thursday, and have Cathedral Prep lose either in regulation to Peters Township outright or in overtime to Peters Township, and the Rams take 11 or more penalty minutes than the Ramblers throughout the remainder of the regular season, as the Rams also have the tiebreaker over Cannon-McMillan. Cathedral Prep will clinch the number 4 seed in this format. If they lose to Peters Township in regulation, Cannon-McMillan would have to lose to Upper St. Clair, and Pine Richland loses one of their 2 games to North Allegheny or Bethel Park. Possible scenario. A loss to Peters Township in overtime. Cannon-McMillan loses to Upper St. Clair, and either Pine Richland loses any of their remaining games, or they win both their remaining games and take 12 or more penalty minutes than the Ramblers in their final 2 games. So we look at that. Then we have a possibility that they tie 3 ways at 2 different point values. And they have two different scenarios. Cannon McMillan will get the number 4 seed if they're tied. It's 26 points because they have the most points in common games. They will take the 4 seed in any three-way tie. The 5 and 6 seeds will be Pine Ridge and Cathedral Prep, with the team with the fewer penalty minutes in the regular season getting the higher seed. Both teams would have 12 wins in that scenario. If they're tied three ways at 25 points, Cannon McMillan will get the 4 seed, of course. Cathedral Prep will get the 5 seed because they will have 12 wins. And Pine Richland will get the 6 seed with their 11 wins. And then there's one scenario that puts Seneca Valley in the number 5 seed, and I'm going to just say it to get it out of the way. Seneca Valley will clinch a playoff berth, and they clinch the playoff berth, and they can finish no higher than 5th if they do this. They need to win over Central Catholic, have 2 losses by Pine Richland against North Allegheny and Bethel Park, a loss by Cannon McMillan against who they play tomorrow, Upper St. Clair, and they would have the head-to-head over Cannon McMillan. So they would actually clinch the number 5 seed and be in that 4-5 matchup in the first round. Bethel Park will only be the number 8 seed in that first round, so you don't have to worry about Bethel Park moving along anywhere else. That matchup's set. Bethel Park and North Allegheny. Seneca Valley has Upper St. Clair. Pine Richland has Peters Township right now currently, and Cannon McMillan's at Cathedral Prep. As it goes right now, we'll find out in a little bit if that changes. We'll know tomorrow, probably 90% of the bracket for everybody, because it seems like we're going to get an answer here based on what we're going to do. The only thing we're going to have is a qualifier, possibly in B, to figure out if Bishop McCourt can't pull off a victory tonight against Elizabeth Forward. I mean, it's a big night for the Crusaders. I hope that they get, they have a chance to pull that one off. So we're going to go back to the scoreboard here for a little bit, and we're going to start back at where we were when we left off. We'll stop AAA, Bethel Park, and Mount Lebanon. It is 2-2. Bethel Park tied it up. Robbie Abraham with the goal at 13:12 of the second period. Jaden Teets with the assist on that goal. So we move on and look at AA. AA, Baldwin leading South Fayette still 1-0 at Ice Castle Arena. Jimmy Duya with the goal in the second period. Give them the lead. Mars now leading Moon 3-0 at Barrel Ice Complex. Looks like Mars is going to move to try to take the division on Thursday night against Quaker Valley. Big game. Sean Newman, Matthew Bobko, and Nick Bruce with goals for the Planets. Luke Conasse already has 27 saves on 30 shots through 34 minutes. Respectable numbers. Danny Mitchell 11 for 11 in that contest. Mars, of course, needs to defeat. Well, that means that Mars will be playing Quaker Valley on Thursday for the division if they defeat Moon. So the winner of that game wins the Northwest. The loser, pending on how it plays out, will play for a qualifier game. If it's in regulation, if Quaker Valley defeats Mars in regulation, then Quaker Valley is in the postseason as the number one seed in the Northwest. Mars will be playing Meadville for the qualifier game to be able to see who moves on to play the Baldwin Highlanders. If Mars defeats Quaker Valley, then Mars is in regulation, Mars is in, and Meadville's in. If Mars defeats Quaker Valley in overtime, Mars is in as the division winner, and Meadville and Quaker Valley play a playing game. There's a lot moving parts on that one right now. A lot of moving parts. I haven't gotten an update from our standings or check from any of our guys out there right now. I'm waiting to see if I get any updates. Right now, I'm going to look around, see what we have. I'm going to go back and look at our scoreboard. I missed one here. See what we got. 3-3 at Center Ice Arena. I believe they're at the end of 2 or close to it. Should be at least. Nope, 25-27 into this one. 3-3 is your score. I knew it was going to be a high-scoring event at the at the Center Ice Arena. Who else do we have here? In single A, North Hills leading Chartiers Valley 1-0 at the RMU Island. That's a battle for third place in what turned out to be a very competitive Southwest Division. Golub scores to give Montour a 4-3 lead at Center Ice Arena. Chartiers Valley and North Hills, currently North Hills leads Chartiers Valley. That game's going to be for third place in the division. It was a very, very competitive division this year. Chartiers Valley, North Hills, and both South Park and the Thomas Jefferson Jaguars in the Southwest. And, so, of course, Thomas Jefferson just took off with it, and there's nothing you could do about it. But you look at it and you think about it, and I thought that both Chartiers Valley and the North Hills Indians really stepped up this year. I thought they really had a good chance at this, and maybe especially making a run at South Park. They had South Park on the ropes for trying to clinch the division for almost 4 weeks, if you look at it. So you can't really complain about how that works out for those guys. So what else do we got here? Baldwin brings Tanner Cindric in to start the third period. So I guess they pulled Nowicki at the end of that one. And we'll play around. Of course, I'll give you an update. Tomorrow, it will be our final broadcast of the season for BurghHockeyLive. It will be Matt Geica and I at Printscape Arena. The legend will be on the mic calling those two games. Peters Township and Cathedral Prep for the number 3 seed in the AAA. And, of course, the number 4 seed is still up for grabs as Upper St. Clair and Cannon McMillan play to see who ends up, taking that home seed. And still a lot in play there, depending on what happens with Peters Township and Cathedral Prep. If Cathedral Prep goes in and takes Peters Township out, we get talking about it. So, and if you're just joining us, my name is Brian Mitchell. I thank you for watching. This is BurghHockeyLive pregame. We have a follow-up game for you. It is the Hempfield Spartans and who else do we have? Hempfield Spartans and the Hampton Talbots and Hampton Senior Night. So we will be joining the Senior Night festivities here and help you out here. It's 8:15. We'll probably go for another 15 or so minutes before we'll get ready to set up for our postseason thing. Our postseason, our game of the night. So I hope you join us for Hempfield and the Hampton Talbots. I'm going to try to get you set up on a feed there momentarily. But, yeah, we're moving along. I hope you you really enjoyed our coverage this year. We really poured our heart into it this year and hope that you really we thank you from our hearts for everything that you guys have done to watch us and, really opened us up to your homes and allowed us to really bring high school hockey to you and different levels of hockey for that matter. So, thank you very much. Let's see what we got here in Class B. We have, I'll give you the schedule here. Avonworth leading Wilmington 3-1. So it looks like Burrell is going to have a possibility of not even having to get on the ice and being the number 3 seed. So they're moving into they just finished the second, so they're moving into the third, barring a comeback. Burrell looks like they're going to hold on to that number 3 seed, and they'll be playing Carrick in the first round of the postseason instead of those Ringgold Rams. All right. What else do we have here? Moving back to Double-A. 4-0 Mars over Moon. You can probably start to put that one in whatever column you want to put it in. Unless, barring a major comeback by Moon, Mars is going to move within a couple minutes of getting in there, getting that number 1 seed. Third period. We're coming up on the end of that one? Yeah, we're coming up on the end of that game. Looks like Mars is going to defeat Moon, so we have a championship game on Thursday at Barrel Ice Complex. Fortunately, I can't be there. I want to be there for that. Yeah, I'm kind of mad I can't be there for that one, guys. Shots are 37-14 in favor of Mars in that contest. It was just a war of attrition for the Moon Tigers. It's been a rough year for them. Everything that would have gone on. Montour leading Penn Trafford. Looks like at the end of the second. They're going in. They came in. They're not at the end of the second. They still have a lot going on there. So scoring went like this: Michael Felsing, David Tamino, Dusty Gargash, Ryan Mickey, Jeremy Freeman, Nate Lochner, and then Tommy Golub. So they've rotated goals throughout this contest. They're back and forth there at Center Ice Arena. It's about exactly what I expected it to be. That almost ended up being our game of the night for this evening. I just figured that the Hempfield and Hampton game was going to be a little bit tighter because of the way that those teams play. Hempfield, well, that's not the right way to put it. Penn Trafford and Montour would have been a great game. Unfortunately, I can bring you the video feed from this rink better than I could bring you one from Center Ice Arena, and that's just the truth of it. I love Center Ice Arena. They're my favorite rink, but it's tough to get a feed in there, and I'm just going to be honest with you, it was tough. I wanted to go out there, but we'll see how it goes here. Tonight, of course, Greater Latrobe and Franklin Regional, 8:35 face off. They're going to face off in about 15 minutes between that one. That's going to be the big game to pay attention to as we move along in our coverage here. Pay attention. We're going to have the feed for the two contests coming up. For the contest coming up, Hempfield and Hampton at 9:10 here at Frozen Pond. Always a fun time coming up to Frozen Pond and doing doing the broadcast here. It's the first broadcast that I've done on video. Matt Geika and I were here doing a Peters Township broadcast earlier this year, and we had audio only. So, see how it goes. Mount Lebanon leading Bethel Park now 3-2 at the. Should be coming up on either the end of two or end of two. Baden Pullett scored for Mount Lebanon for Marcus Simmons. There we go. I'm waiting for any updates from our contributors. Nobody home. And I didn't know I had Glenn Himes covering at Moon up at Barrel. It is 4-0. There are only 2 down in the contest. Sorry, it is only the end of 2. I thought that looked like it was coming up at the end of the period. Glenn Himes, one of our stringers, is going to help us out in the postseason, so thanks to Glenn. I didn't know he was out tonight, or I would have asked him for a little update here and there. 4-0 is the score. So, senior recognition night for one of the 2 squads, I believe Moon, this evening. So, congratulations to the seniors. We have another one of those coming up here momentarily. We will be out in full force. In the opening round of the postseason and through the semifinals and the finals, and I will be at the state championships on March 21st in Westchester at the Quad Rinks. So I can't wait to see everybody that makes it out there. There's a couple things going on I have to discuss with some people, but I don't know how we're going to play it out. Looks like we're going to have a interesting start. It's a little late for me, so I had a little sneeze there. I just saw it in my camera. It's actually pretty funny. I've never done one of these live before, so I'm trying to bring it a little bit of personality to it, but knowing me, it's a little tougher. So I apologize if it comes off a little bit differently. I just laugh at myself. I'm not built for camera. I don't have a face. I have a face for radio, as I've always put it. So I just like to have a good time with all of it. So what do we got here? Of course, Hampton and Hempfield up next. That is the game of the week for me. It's going to be a fun time had by all, I think. I think we're going to have a good one because we'll find out what happens between Franklin Regional and Greater Latrobe during the game. I'll try to keep you updated where I can, and yeah, it's just going to be a fun one to get involved with and just see these two teams play. It's no secret to me. I've been following high school for 4 years now. I've tried my hardest to get through the best that I can, and as you continue to build along, you get to know players, and you get to know families, and you get to know these things. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here and just talk about a player that I thought has excelled beyond everything, and especially the way he's played in the last couple seasons, and that a good friend, not a good friend, but like I've gotten to know his parents, his father a little bit, and that's Jake McGee. And undersized goaltender. There's not a lot you can do, but very athletic, very high strength. He is responsible for the win over both. I believe he won last year against the Pine Richland Rams when Pine Richland fell to Hampton, and then he has the victory over the victory over Greater Latrobe this year. So I don't count Hampton out at any given time. Based on, it's been a rough year. Been a rough year for the Talbots. Yeah, could you talk about how it could have been better, could have been worse? Yeah, it could have been, but it played out the way it played out. And his senior graduating tonight, and the way he's played is awesome. And I got to know that team last year after everything that happened a year before, because they've got disqualified from the postseason for, I believe it was an ineligible player. I'm not 100% sure about that detail, but they moved along and they continued to build on that year. And then last year, the players. Michael Orban, I can't remember the other two names. Adamski, all those players that went on to play basically in the play for Pitt and Duquesne. So Orban and Adamski, Adamski plays for Robert Morris now in the ACHA and CMHA. So you talk about those players and you build those teams, and it's a fun time. It was a good time to meet those players. You got to know teams a little bit better than some, and one of those players that always stuck out in my head was Jake McGee, and just an athletic goaltender, and he has a lot going for him. And it's his senior night here, and these Hampton Talbots. It's been a rough year. It's been a rough year. You graduate the solid forwards on that squad, and then you come back and you play like you do. So congratulations to them, and I'm glad to be here on their senior night. And we'll see how this all works out throughout this evening. So we're going to actually stop in about 4 minutes now, and I'm going to get ready for our game, and we'll go from there. We'll get one more run around the scoreboard, and follow on Twitter if you're going to pay attention. 2 completed in the books. Jared Todd Hunter tells me 4-3. Montour leads Greater Latrobe. I'm sorry, between Penn Trafford right now. So Moon trailing Mars 4-0, and Baldwin leading South Fayette 1-0. South Fayette playing Baldwin tough here. Go back into AAA. They're in a break there. We'll go back to Single A. We've got a 1-0 lead for Chartiers Valley. And then the game schedule here, we got in Class B, 5-1 Avonworth over Wilmington. So let's see where we are in terms of the scoreboard. We've got a 5-1 lead. And that is into the third period, just starting in the third period here. A 4-goal lead starting out in the third. With all kidding aside, you can probably start chalking up the third seed going to the Burrell Bucks, heading to Carrick. And the 4 seed, Wilmington, will be facing Ringgold in the first round. Let's see how those teams fared in the regular season. Wilmington's regular season matchup against Ringgold. It's not if they beat them. I just wonder how it played out between those two teams. They played Ringgold all the way back on November 11th at Hess, and Ringgold defeated them 9-2 in that contest. So that's your matchup for that one. And Burrell facing Carrick. I believe they just played a couple weeks ago. And the one thing to note about Burrell and Carrick is that Burrell will not have a big player eligible in Tyler Stewart. Tyler Stewart came in a couple weeks after Christmas, but he's not going to get enough games to play in the postseason. So he came into that Carrick game on Monday, January 6th at Ice Castle and Trackside, and they lost 10-8. I want to put something into perspective with Tyler Stewart. And they reached out to me to see if we were coming tonight. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it up, and not a lot this year we could have done. It's tough whenever we're trying to get everywhere and try to cover everybody. And I apologize. When we try to do everything that we can, some things just don't play in. Tyler Stewart played in 6 games this season. Gio Palumbo played in 8 games this season. They are both tied with 35 points. Tyler Stewart had 26 goals in 6 games this year. Gio Stewart had 16 goals in 8 games this year. Is anybody paying attention to those numbers? That's 4 goals a game for Tyler. 4.5 goals a game for Tyler Stewart. Just under 4.5 goals a game. Gio Palumbo's got 2 goals a game. I'm not even going to look into points. Tyler Stewart's just a shade under 6 points a game right now. So that's a that's a senior class you're going to miss up there in Burrell. But you hope that they move along in the next couple years, and they're able to take those lessons those players had. That's a dynamic. Those are just dynamic numbers. And let's put it into perspective in all of Class B. Let's look at the Class B player statistics for this year going into tonight. And Tyler Stewart, 26 goals in 6 games. Tyler Stewart ranks 2nd in goals in Class B. He's tied with Michael Vasco of Elizabeth Forward. Brad Budos leading the way with 31. Budos, I believe, is leading all of Class B in points with 60 points on the year in 17 games. Eberlin's with 50 from Ringgold. But Palumbo and Stewart have played less games combined than those guys. Those are some numbers, guys. Those are some numbers. Congratulations to that senior class up there at Burrell. I'm going to give them a shout out right now because they're about to walk into the postseason with 3. So you look at that, and it's awesome to see how that's played out. I can't wait to see how next year looks for the Burrell Bucks at this point. But those are numbers right there. I stopped paying attention by accident, but you can't miss 26 goals in 6 games. I want to look at his breakdown. I'm going to blow my projection of being done out of the water because I really want to see this. Let me look real fast, and then I'm going to get out of here. We're going to take one more look at the scoreboard, then we're going to get out of here so I can get ready for the next game. Okay, so in all of his games, Carrick, McDowell, Elizabeth Forward, Avonworth, Wilmington, Central Valley. He played 2 home games. Tonight will be his 3rd. He had 6 goals against Carrick, 4 goals against McDowell, 2 goals against Elizabeth Forward, 6 goals against Avonworth, 4 goals against Wilmington, and 4 goals against Central Valley. It's insane. He's had a prolific career for Burrell. Congratulations to all of them. Let me look at the scoreboard one more time, and then we will sign off and move on as they are getting ready for senior night here at Frozen Pond Arena for Hampton and Hempfield. Bethel Park trailing Mount Lebanon in the 3rd, 3-2. Got some music going on somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where it is. That one's still 3-2 late. In AA, we've got no updates from my guys, so I'll assume that all is well. 1-0 Baldwin over South Fayette. Mars over Moon, 4-0. Montour leading Penn Trafford, 3-0. Franklin Regional and Gray Latrobe about to face off in about 2 minutes. Hempfield and Hampton later tonight on Burgh Hockey Live. North Hills leading Chartiers Valley 1-0 in a battle of 3rd place. And in that Southwest Division, and Avonworth now with a 6-1 lead over Wilmington. Congratulations to the Burrell Bucks, who probably have just clinched the 3 seed in the North. All right, with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for watching this evening. I'm Brian Mitchell. This has been Burgh Hockey Live pregame show. Join me in about 35 minutes for Hempfield and Hampton. possibly the winners moves on to a qualifier game or the postseason. We'll see momentarily. Take care, guys.